everybody, Katie here with Only Crochet, and in today's tutorial we are going to be making this giant rainbow pillow. It turned out to be about 38 by 26 inches, and it's a pretty good size. So my daughter, she loves it. I think it would make a really good gift. You can use any yarn. I use the Big Twist textile from Joann's. I think it would be really great maybe in the blanket yarn or like a velvet yarn, make it nice and soft, but it's up to you. You can use whatever yarn you want. This is the front side of the pillow. I'll show you the back. I don't know what side I like better, but I know I like them both. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. The supplies we'll be using for today's tutorial are a 9mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, and then you're going to want to grab a scrap piece of yarn for a stitch marker. And then the yarn that we're going to be using is Big Twist textile from Joann's, and I have the color white, light pink, aqua, dark pink, dark blue, yellow, and coral. For these colors right here, you're just going to need 1 skein and 5 skeins of the white. There are some other supplies that I'm going to be using. I got this huge box of polyfill to stuff the pillow. I also just got some fabric. I'm going to make my own pillow insert. And because I hate sewing, it really frustrates me, I got some fabric glue. So I hope this works well. We'll see. Okay. So that's it for supplies, and let's get started. Start out by making a slip knot, and from here chain 10. Now into the second chain from the hook, we're going to place 1 single crochet. So insert your hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Into the next stitch, place a single crochet, single crochet all the way down until you get to the second to last stitch. So a total of 8. Here I am with 1 stitch remaining, and into this stitch we are going to place 3 single crochets. And now that we're on the other side, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way down. Okay, so row 1 is complete. We have 8 single crochets going up the side, and then 3 single crochets into that 1 stitch, and then 8 going back down. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and place my stitch marker. You're going to want one that's a lot longer than this. I just cut mine a little shorter because I don't want it to get in the way. So on this side, locate your 8th stitch and feed your stitch marker through. And same thing on this side, locate your 8th stitch and feed it through. And that just helps you keep track of where we're going to start and stop our increases. So on to round 2, we're going to chain up 1, go ahead and 8 single crochets, you'll be at your stitch marker. Okay, so I have my 8. I made it to my stitch marker. And our increases are going to start at the stitch after the stitch marker, and they will always end at the stitch before the stitch marker. So into each stitch, we have 3 of them right here, we're going to place 2 single crochets into each stitch. And now here we are at our stitch marker. That's going to be our first of 8 stitches down. So go ahead and do your 8 stitches. Single crochets, sorry. So I have my 8 stitches, and after each row, go ahead and move your stitch marker up. For the beginning of each row, we are going to start out with a chain 1, turning your work and working to our stitch marker, a total of 8 single crochets. I'll show you one last time, and then from there on out, I'm just going to be starting at the increase portion of the pillow. The increase for row 3 is going to be 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch you will place 2 single crochets. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. Now we are going to place our 8 single crochets, and we are going to do a color change. So don't finish that last single crochet. Okay, we're going to be doing a color change, so go ahead and cut your white yarn. We're going to move on to the light pink. So just go ahead and feed that through. Then go ahead and chain up 1. 8 single crochets to the stitch marker. Alright, so now that we're at our 8th stitch, we're going to do our increases for row 4. For my even rows, I kind of do it a little differently. When I'm working in the round, I really like to stagger my stitches because I don't like those corners that you get when you stack the increases on top of one another. So I hope I can explain this well to you, but this is how I do it. So what it is basically is we're working in sets of 4 stitches. So 1, 2, here's our increase, 3, 4. So what I like to do is the single stitches, I'll split that count in half. So for row 4, we have 2 and then an increase. So I'm splitting that in half to 1. So starting the row out, I'm going to do 1 stitch. And when I'm working it, I do count by 2s because it just helps my brain think better, I guess. So I'll count 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have the 1 stitch over here. And it works the same way if you go from the end. So we have 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. For row 6, we're working in sets of 6 stitches. Our 5 and 6 are the increase. So to start out row 6, I have 4 single crochets. I'm going to split that number in half. and this is what I'm going to start with. So we have 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the 2 at the end. And again, whichever way you count by, it's the same. 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more example. For row 8, we're working in sets of 8 stitches. Stitch 7 and 8 are increase stitches. So here we have a total of 6 single crochets. I'm going to split the number in half. I have 3, so that's what I'm going to start out with. And again, I count by 2s when I'm starting out. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I forgot my 3 stitches on this side. So I hope I explained that well enough, and this is how it's going to be for every even row. So keep that in mind as we continue on. So row 4, we have our 8 single crochets, and I'm going to start out counting by 2s. And we're working in sets of 4. Stitch 3 and 4 are the increase. So here we have 2, 3, and 4. And now we just place 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches, and then an increase. 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have 1 stitch left before our stitch marker, and we're going to place 1 single crochet, and that matches up with the other side. Go ahead and work your 8 single crochets down the side. Go ahead, make sure your stitch marker is moved up, and each row from here on out is going to start out the same with a chain 1, turning your work, and 8 single crochets. And from here on out in the video, I am just going to start each row once I get to the stitch marker. So keep in mind that this is how the rows are going to start. Okay, and to add more confusion to the mix, I hope it's not confusing, but when I made my sample one, I continued on with the pattern, and for my odd rows, I was starting each one and then doing the increase, and it ended up that this side was kind of angled and this side was kind of flat because the end, all the increases were on this side. So it kind of pushed this down a little bit. So what I ended up doing is every other row for the odd rows, I would start with 2 stitches. So on the 3rd row, we started with 1, 2, 3 for our increase. So now we're on row 5. I'm going to start with 2 stitches and then 3, 2 and then 3. So every other odd row, there will be an increase on this side, and then the other one, the increase will be on this side. And it kind of just helps flatten out that bottom and make it look a little more neat. So if you want, go ahead and just write this down and keep it next to you as you're working. The rows that are going to start with 2 stitches are rows 5, 9, 13, 17, 21, 25, 29, 33, and 37. The other odd rows, we are just going to work and then do our increase. All right, so I have my 8 stitches, and now we're going to work our increase. This is row 5, so we are going to start our increase in the first stitch. So place 2 single crochets. We're working in sets of 5 stitches, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Stitches 1 and 2 will be our increase. 1, 2, then 3, 4, and 5. Again, stitch 1 and 2 will be our increase. Then 3, 4, and 5. And remember, you should be ending in the stitch before your stitch marker. Now go ahead and work your 8 single crochets, chain 1, and then 8 single crochets, and then we'll move on to the increase in row 6. Okay, we're on row 6, which is an even row, and we're working in sets of 6 stitches. Stitch 5 and 6 are going to be our increase, and remember, I'm going to count by 2s for this first set. So 2, 4, 5, and 6. Now a complete set of 6, so in the first 4 stitches, place 1 single crochet, 3 and 4, stitch 5 and 6 are increase. Go ahead and do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 and 6 is our increase. 2 stitches remaining. Work your 8, chain 1, turn, 8, back up to the stitch marker. All right, we're on row 7. We did our 8 stitches. And now we're going to be working in sets of 7. Stitch 6 and 7 are going to be our increase. So in the first 5, place 1 single crochet. There's 5. 6 and 7 go into the same stitch. Repeat that 2 more times until you get to your stitch marker. The last stitch before the stitch marker is 6 and 7, which is an increase. Work your 8, chain 1, turn, move up your stitch marker, work 8, back up to your stitch marker. The increase for round 8, it's an even row. I'm going to start out by counting by 2s. Stitch 7 and 8 will be our increase. So we have 2, 4, 6. We're at stitch 7 and 8, and those are both going to go into 1 stitch. Work 6 single crochets, and then we're going to do an increase. 7 and 8. Repeat that same thing again. 6 single crochets, an increase, which is stitch 7 and 8. And then we are going to finish off with 3 single crochets. After that, work your 8 single crochets to finish the row, chain 1, turn, 8 single crochets back up to the stitch marker. Okay, we're on row 9, and row 9 is one of the rows where we're going to start our increase at the beginning. So stitch 1 and 2 are going to be our increase. So 1, 2, and then the next 7 are single crochets. And now you're going to repeat that 2 more times. Stitch 1 and 2 are your increase, and then the next 7 stitches place 1 single crochet. Okay, so we finished up. Now we're at our stitch marker. We're going to work all the way to the end. Don't finish your last single crochet because we are going to be changing colors. So I'm at the end. I didn't finish my last stitch. I went ahead and cut my yarn. Go ahead and pull the new color through, and I'm using the aqua. Go ahead and chain up 1, turn your work, and work your 8 stitches. We are on row 10, and we're going to count by 2s up until stitch 9 and 10. Those are increase stitches. 6, 8, 9, and 10 are going to go into here. 9 and 10. In the next 8 stitches, place 1 single crochet. That 9th stitch will be your increase of 9 and 10, and you're going to repeat that 2 more times. Now that we've placed our last increase, we have 4 stitches remaining, so place 1 single crochet into there, and then work your 8 single crochets to finish the row, chain 1, turn, 8 single crochets to start the next row. For row 11, the first 9 stitches will get 1 single crochet. Once you have your 9, place your increase into the next stitch, and that will count as stitch 10 and 11. Work that 2 more times until you get to the stitch marker, then finish off with 8 single crochets and start the next row. Row 12, stitches 11 and 12 are going to be our increase. Counting by 2s, we have 2, 4, 10, 11, and 12 into the same stitch. The next 10 stitches will get 1 single crochet and then an increase in the 11th stitch, and do that 2 times. After that, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches remaining. Go ahead and place a single crochet into each of those stitches. Go ahead and finish this row, start the next, and then we'll meet up. Okay, for row 13, it's where we're going to start out with 2 stitches. So stitch 1 and 2 are the increase. And then the next 11, we'll get 1 single crochet. Then repeat that 2 more times. And now that we've made it to the stitch marker, go ahead and end the row and start the next. For row 14, we're going to start by counting our stitches by 2s until we get to stitch 13 and 14, and that's going to be our increase. So 2, 4, 12, stitch 13 and 14 are our increase. The next 12 stitches we'll get 1 single crochet and then an increase after that. Then repeat that 12 stitches, then an increase. Once you've placed your last increase, there are 6 stitches before you reach the stitch marker. Place 1 single crochet into each of those and then finish off this row and start the next. Row 15, we are going to start by placing 1 single crochet in the first 13 stitches. And in the next stitch, we're going to place our increase, and this is stitch 14 and 15. Go ahead and repeat that 2 more times until you get to your stitch marker, and then go ahead and work your 8 single crochets, but do not finish the last one. We are going to be doing a color change. We're going to be working with the dark blue. Go ahead and feed it through and then chain up 1 and work your 8 single crochets. Okay, we are on row 16. Stitches 15 and 16 are going to be our increase, and I'm going to count by 2s until I get there. So 2, 4, 6, 14, 15 and 16 will go into this stitch. The next 14 stitches will get 1 single crochet and then your increase. 14 stitches and then an increase. After you've placed your last increase, you have 7 stitches remaining. Place 1 single crochet and then finish up the row and start the next. Now that we're on row 17, it's an odd row, and we're going to start with our increase. So stitch 1 and 2 are going to be in the same stitch, and then the next 15 stitches will each get 1 single crochet. And you are going to repeat that 2 more times. Stitch 1 and 2 are your increase. The next 15 will get 1 single crochet. We're back at our stitch marker. Work your 8 to finish and 8 to start. For row 18, 17 and 18 are going to be our increase stitches. And I'm going to start out by counting by 2s. 2, 4, 16, 17 and 18 go into the stitch. 17, 18. The next 16 stitches will get 1 single crochet. The following stitch will get 2, and repeat that twice. After your last increase, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches remaining. Go ahead and place a single crochet into each one of those. And then you are going to finish off the row with 8 single crochets and start up the next row with 8 single crochets. For row 19, stitches 18 and 19 will be your increase. So the first 17 will get 1 single crochet. Here we are at our increase, stitches 18 and 19. Go ahead and repeat that 2 more times, then finish off the row and start up the next. For row 20, it's an even row. We're going to start out counting by 2s, and stitch 19 and 20 will be our increase. So 2, 4, 18, and 19 and 20 are increase. 19, 20. In the next 18 stitches, place 1 single crochet, and then you'll do your increase. And repeat that twice. After the last increase, you should have a total of 9 stitches. So place 1 single crochet, then finish up the row and start up the next. For row 21, the increase is in the beginning, so stitch 1 and 2 are in this first stitch, and the next 19 stitches will get 1 single crochet. And now we're going to repeat that 2 more times. Stitch 1 and 2 are the increase, and then place your 19 single crochets. Now that we're at the end, we are going to work our 8 stitches, but we are going to do a color change. We are going to change to the yellow color, and then after you do that, work up your 8 stitches back up to the stitch marker. We're now on row 22. I worked my 8 stitches. We're going to start out counting by 2s. 21 and 22 are going to be our increase. So we have 2, 4, 18, 20, 21, and 22 into the next stitch. Into the next 20 stitches, you're going to place 1 single crochet, and then the following stitch will be your increase, and you're going to repeat that 2 times. After the last increase, you should have 10 stitches remaining. Go ahead and place 1 single crochet into each of those stitches, and then finish off the row with your 8 single crochets, and then start up the next row with 8 single crochets. For row 23, we are going to work 21 single crochets, and then we will put our increase into the next stitch, which will give us a total of 23 stitches. Repeat that a total of 3 times, end your row, then start up the next, and we'll meet up on row 24. Okay, we are now on row 24. Start out counting by 2s. Stitch 23 and 24 will be our increase. So we have 2, 4, 22, 23, and 24 are our increase. They go in the same stitch. And now the next 22 stitches will get 1 single crochet and then your increase. Go ahead and repeat that 2 times, finish up your row, and then start up the next. Row 25, stitch 1 and 2 are our increase, and the next 23 stitches will get 1 single crochet for a total of 25 stitches. Now you're going to repeat that 2 more times. Stitch 1 and 2 are your increase. The next 23 will get 1 single crochet. Finish up the end with 8 and start up the next row. We're now on row 26. We are going to count by 2s. Stitch 25 and 26 will be our increase. So 2, 4, 22, 24, 25, and 26 go into here. 25, 26. The next 24 stitches will get 1 single crochet, and then your increase will go after that, and repeat that 2 times. After your last increase, you should have a total of 12 stitches after your stitch marker, so go ahead and work 1 single crochet into there, finish off the row, and start up the next. We're now on row 27, and the first 25 stitches will get 1 single crochet, and then the following stitch will be our increase. And that is the repeat. We're going to do it 2 more times. 25 single crochets, and then stitch 26 and 27 are the increase. After you do that, finish up the row, and we are going to switch over to the coral color. We're now on row 28. We're going to count by 2s. Stitch 27 and 28 will be our increase. 2, 4, 24, 26, and 27 and 28 will go into the same stitch. Now into the next 26 stitches, place 1 single crochet. The stitch after that will get an increase, and you're going to repeat that 2 times. So after your last increase, you should have a total of 13 stitches. Go ahead and place 1 single crochet, and then finish off the row and start up the next row. So now we're on row 29, and stitch 1 and 2 are going to be our increase. So 2 single crochets into the first stitch, and then the next 27 stitches will get 1 single crochet, and we're going to repeat that for a total of 3 times, and then finish off the row and start up the next row. Okay, we are now on row 30. I just tied on some more scrap yarn to make my stitch marker longer. You can do the same if you need to. So for row 30, even row, we're gonna count by 2s, and stitch 29 and 30 will be our increase. So 2, 4, 26, 28, and 29 and 30 is your increase into this stitch. And now we are going to work 28 single crochets, and in the following stitch will be another increase. Repeat that 2 times. Okay, we finished up our last increase. There are 14 stitches until the stitch marker. Place 1 single crochet into each stitch, finish off the row, and start up the next. We are now on row 31, and in the first 29 stitches, place 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch will be our increase. Place 2 single crochets for a total of 31 stitches. Repeat that for a total of 3 times. Finish off your row and start up the next. For row 32, I have my starting 8 stitches, and it's an even row, so I'm going to count by 2s until I get up to stitch 31 and 32. Those are my increase stitches. So we have 2, 4, 28, 30, and stitch 31 and 32 are increase, so those go into the same stitch. Okay, so now into the next 30 stitches, you're going to place 1 single crochet, and that's going to be followed by an increase, and you're going to repeat that 2 times. I've placed the last increase, and now there are 15 stitches before the stitch marker. Place 1 single crochet in each stitch, end your row, and start up the next. We're now on row 33. We're going to start this row with an increase, stitch 1 and 2, go into the first stitch, and then place a single crochet into the next 31 stitches, and you're going to repeat that a total of 3 times. After you do that, finish up your row, and we are going to be doing a color change to the dark pink. Row 34, we're going to count by 2s until we get up to stitches 33 and 34, which are our increase stitches. 30, 32, and stitch 33 and 34 will go into here. 33 and 34. Now the next 32 stitches will get 1 single crochet, and the following stitch will be an increase. so it will get 2 single crochets, and you are going to repeat that 2 times. Now that we've made our last increase, there are 16 stitches before the stitch marker. Place 16 single crochets, then finish off this row and start up the next. Row 35, we are going to place 1 single crochet in the first 33 stitches, and the stitch after that will be our increase stitch. Repeat that 3 times, end the row, start the next. We are on row 36. We are going to count by 2s until we get to stitch 35 and 36. Those are going to be our increase stitches. 32, 34, and stitch 35 and 36 are our increase. And now in the next 34 stitches, you're going to place 1 single crochet, and in the following stitch, do an increase of 2 single crochets and repeat that 2 times. After the last increase, you will have 17 stitches. Place 1 single crochet in each of those, and then you are going to finish off the row and start the next. For row 37, we are going to start this row with an increase. So the first stitch will get 2 single crochets. That's stitch 1 and 2, and the next 35 stitches will get 1 single crochet for a total of 37 stitches. Repeat that for a total of 3 times, then end the row and start the next. For row 38, we're going to be counting by 2s all the way up until stitch 37 and 38, and those are our increase stitches. 34, 36, 37, and 38 are our increase. And now for the next 36 stitches, you're going to place 1 single crochet, and the following stitch will be an increase of 2 single crochets. Go ahead and repeat that 2 times. Once you've placed your last increase, the next 18 stitches will get 1 single crochet, and that will put you at your stitch marker. Go ahead and finish off the row, and then we are going to be changing color for the last time. Go ahead and switch to your white. And now we're going back to the white, so go ahead and pull that through. And then chain up 1. Now you're going to turn your work so that you can work along the bottom edge. And what we're going to do is along each row of single crochets, we are going to place 1 single crochet. So for the first one, I'm going to place it right here, right around that single crochet. And because there's 6 rows of each color, you should have 6 single crochets across each color. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Same thing, 6 across the coral color, and as you can see, we're just going around the first single crochet, and we're going to do that all the way across. Now that we're at the middle, we need 6 stitches across there as well. So 1, 2, and 3, and then don't go into this middle space, jump over here, 4, 5, and 6. And again, along this side, each color will get 6 single crochets across. And now here we are at the other end. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 into the dark pink. Here's 5 and 6. And now I'm going to just chain up 1, and we're going to work along here now. And it's going to be 8 stitches till you get to your stitch marker. For row 40, we're going to count by 2s until we get to stitch 39 and 40, which will be our increase stitches. 36, 38, and 39 and 40 is the increase. And now single crochet 38 followed by an increase, and repeat that 2 times. Now that we placed the last increase, there are 19 stitches until the stitch marker, so go ahead and place 1 single crochet until you reach the stitch marker, and then work your 8 single crochets to the end. And here's my 8th single crochet right here. Chain 1 and slip stitch into the first single crochet along the bottom. And now we're going to chain up 1 and single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Now that we made it to the end, we are at that chain 1 space, and in that chain 1 space, place 1 single crochet, chain up 1, and into the same space, single crochet. And now we are going to place single crochets all the way up to our stitch marker. For row 41, we're starting out with an increase, so stitch 1 and 2 will go into the first stitch, and the next 39 stitches will each get 1 single crochet. You're going to repeat that for a total of 3 times. Now that we're at the stitch marker, go ahead and work single crochets until you reach the corner. Find that chain 1 space and place 1 single crochet, chain up 1, 1 single crochet, all into that chain space. And now we're going to slip stitch into this single crochet and chain up 1, and then just go ahead and work a single crochet all the way across the bottom. And when you get to the chain 1 space, place 1 single crochet, chain 1, 1 single crochet, and then single crochet up until your stitch marker. We are on row 42, our final row. It's an even row, so go ahead and count by 2s until you get to the increase stitches, stitch 41 and 42. 38, 40, stitch 41 and 42 are our increase. So place 2 single crochets into the next. And now what we're going to do is work 40 single crochets, and the stitch after that will be the increase, and do that 2 times. We did our last increase, and now there are a total of 20 stitches until you reach the stitch marker. Go ahead and place a single crochet and then work up until you get to the corner. Okay, here we are at the corner, and just as before, place 1 single crochet, chain up 1, 1 single crochet. And now here along this side, we do have 1 stitch that we need to work a single crochet into. And then we are going to join with a slip stitch and then go ahead and chain up one, and you can cut your yarn. After you have this side complete, you're going to want to sew in your ends, and then you have to make the other side of the pillow. And for the other side of the pillow, the majority of it is done in white. As you can see here, each color, there's a total of 6 rows. So on that 6th row, I ended up doing just 1 row of colors. So row 9 is the light pink, row 15 is the aqua, row 21 is the dark blue, and then 27 is the yellow, row 33 is the coral, and 39 is the dark pink. So go ahead and get the other side of your pillow worked up, and then we will go ahead and get it stuffed, sew it together, all of that. To seam up your pillow, you're going to make sure that your wrong sides are facing one another. And we're going to start by seaming up the bottom. So go ahead and make a slip knot. And you're going to locate the first single crochet along the bottom and place a slip stitch. And now find the first single crochet along the bottom on the other one, the other side, which is right here. And we are going to slip stitch through there. And now what we're going to do is slip stitch in alternating sides all the way across the bottom until you reach the corner. I've now made it to the end. I have 1 stitch remaining on each side. So go ahead and place your slip stitches, and now we are at the chain 1 space. And we're going to do the same thing here. Just put a slip stitch in this chain 1 space, and then come over to this side and place a slip stitch into this chain 1 space. And now we're just going to work along the arched side, and we're going to do the same thing we did across the bottom. Each side will get a slip stitch, and then once we get back over here, I'd go ahead and stop here, and then we'll put our insert in and stuff it before we close it up all the way. Okay, once you have all of your ends sewn in, go ahead and take your piece of fabric, and I folded it in half. That way the bottom could already be seamed up. And what you're going to do is just go ahead and leave yourself a little bit of room for some seam allowance and trace around your rainbow. Once you have that done, go ahead and cut it out. Now that you have everything seamed together, except for your opening right here, go ahead and get your insert, and I'm going to flip it inside out. So now find your opening here. Make sure it lines up with the opening here. Go ahead and put it in, and then we're going to stuff it. Once you have your pillow stuffed, go ahead and get your glue and glue the opening shut, and then from there we're going to finish stitching it closed. Okay, so I glued up the opening on the other end and finished seaming it up, and the last thing you need to do is sew in your ends. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye.